And we are recording. Good deal. As always, I am Brian Kynes, the creator of the Tales of Ulran campaign setting and TTRPG rules set, if you will. We use a multitude of different types of tabletop role-playing games. We take bits and pieces of things that work really good and the things that don't. We try to come up with our own ideas, and we've made our own system out of that. These folks have helped be the guinea pigs and the authors of a lot of those fantastic ideas. And I'm really glad they're here joining me on this Sunday afternoon to help me write this story one chapter at a time. We'll go through introductions, which we haven't done for the last couple because we've been jumping into stuff. So I figured let's go ahead and revisit it today. I will start with Colby. Go ahead, sir.
I'm Colby, and I'll be playing Arson, who is a Draken who is ready to continue on with his training of becoming a fully fledged monk and trying to make up for what has happened in the past.
Very good. Thank you, buddy. And Mr. McGuffey, go ahead.
I'll be playing Finn Theorly. I'm not even pronouncing that Elvish last name.
Yeah, those bastards.
But he is a arcane blade and a lunesti.
Very nice. Mr. Keaton, you're next, sir.
I am going to be playing Rook. So I get my thing bumped up here where I can actually see myself. Make sure I'm unmuted.
Right on.
I'll be playing the Voldros Echo Knight. As far as everyone has seen so far, nothing else special about him at all. Nobody needs to worry about a thing. Not suspicious at all.
Not at all. I mean, not even a little bit. I like it. Nothing to see behind the curtain.
No, not at all.
In the Wizard of Oz. I like it, man. And last but certainly not least, Isabella, it is your turn.
I am Belle, and I play A'zara, the apparent human to the rest of the party, but the Dariblan dancer.
Nice. Good deal. We may get to see a few of their steps in action today if we play our cards right. We'll see how things go here. Like I say, it's been 2 weeks at least, has it not? So we kind of went through and recapped with everybody earlier. A few folks are not sure exactly where we are. Watch the last episode. It helps everyone, and it's immortalized in YouTube videos, so you can see it as it happened. I'd like to go ahead and start, I think, and I haven't thought about this too much, but with the goings on upstairs in the upper floor of this, if you remember correctly, guys, A'zara, escorted by Finn, had went upstairs, and strangely enough, Lydia, this Dariblan individual, is not concealing who she is at all. We described her. I've never really put a face to who she is as far as characters are concerned. We've always had a little bit of fantasy art, but she just looks like a fair assassin-like. I mean, I don't even know how you would explain it. She has a white hair and a paler expression to her face and color and face, but she has horns that come from the back of her head, and they almost appear to be a pearl-like color. They're not dark like your typical Dariblan. There's something off about her just a little bit from what you guys understand of them. Okay? Now, has there ever been a moment, A'zara, that anyone in the group has seen you in that form?
No.
Okay. I know that things had happened in the game, but I don't know if anyone here particularly had ever seen that. So, when you take that in, Belle, I want you kind of to imagine that this character, she is equal parts fascinating, and she has a very, it's not overly sexualized, but there is something very sensual about the way in which she engages when she speaks. There's always a flirtatious air, there is always a cunning, as if she's one step ahead in a flirtatious-like manner. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
She has that kind of thing. If I had to describe her by a person in some kind of film or anything that I've seen, you almost have to kind of think of Kate Beckinsale from the what is the movies, the vampire movies? What are they called? It
World.
begins for you. What is it called?
Underworld.
Underworld. Thank you. Yes. So she has that kind of air to her, very similar to her. And like I said, you know, A'zara, what you look at like and you see in the mirror. There seems to be something, dare I say, celestial about her that doesn't quite make sense to you. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Something is a little different. And as you guys were downstairs and she presented herself, Jeremy, I don't know, did she buy him a drink or did she just waltz over? I think, oh, he's got a call. Colby, did she send a message over with that waitress and then just go upstairs and wait for them to join her?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought too. That's what I thought too. And that's when Finn had kind of discussed and said, well, I'll escort her. That's kind of the contract. That's kind of what I'm here doing. The work of an ambassador, kind of walking through the paces. Just trying to play off that for you a little bit, Danny. Okay? So she goes upstairs, and there are booths on the upstairs level of this place. Now it's all open floor. So when you're in the second floor of this, the balcony, like part of this, you can see down into the main floor. And there's that big chandelier that hangs off the middle. Actually, there'll be several of them. And those are going to be about seat level with you guys on that next floor up. Okay? As we discussed, there are many this is a really large A-frame like ceiling in this place. It has like a elegant kind of mid-rusticness to it. Any bit of rusticness in this building is done completely just for charm. It is not truly dependent upon iron and steel and wood to hold itself together. It's all there for theatrics. Okay? And as she's sitting upstairs, you're escorted up there by a waitress. If I'm not mistaken, guys, did we say she was human and she looked like the girl off of Two Broke Girls? Is that how we called that? I couldn't remember if she was a halfling or not. Do you happen to remember, Jeremy? Or Jeremy does not remember. Colby,
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking she was halfling as well. And she kind of looks like that quirky, sarcastic character from that show. When she escorts you guys upstairs, A'zara, I want you to roll me a perception check. Danny, you do the same for Finn.
$19.
19. That's not bad, sir. What'd you get, Belle?
Let's see, I rolled a 16, but I need to see if I add anything to that. No, 16.
Your intelligence modifier. If you're
All right.
proficient in intelligence.
Let me see, my intelligence modifier is 1.
Okay. Is perception wisdom or intelligence?
Intelligence.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's wisdom.
That's what I thought.
Nature is intelligence.
So you had 16 plus your wisdom modifier. Bella, what is that total?
Which is 2.
2. Not bad. 18. Good. Okay. For as boisterous as this waitress has been at the table downstairs, and as charismatic and charming as the people are in this place, when you go upstairs and you approach the booth that Lydia is sitting at by herself with a bottle and 2 empty glasses, she didn't expect a third, you can see this. These booths have curtains draped around them that make them look like miniature stages, kind of. They're kind of a theatric here. And you can have those released if you want for privacy in these particular booths that line this upper rim. You can see that this is for folks that don't like to be down there with all the ruckus. Almost like the, where the Abe Lincoln would have sat to watch the play, kind of balcony kind of seating up here. It gives that kind of feel. Okay? And as you're going up there, this waitress, which I don't think we've gave her a name yet, but she is not being her charming self. She is more quiet, and you guys catch a bead of sweat going down the side of her face. She's a little bit more nervous than she has been thus far. In other words, that charisma is starting to wear off a little bit, and she has genuine concern that she's doing this right. Almost like a dancer who doesn't know the steps very well. Okay? And as she takes you up there, and she takes her hand out and offers you guys seats, she still doesn't say anything. She just kind of nervously smiles at the two of you. And when she reaches over to pour some more of this beverage into these two mugs, Lydia quickly grabs her hand and looks at her before you can even react to it and says, I'll not need you to be pouring anything for me here or any other time. Close the curtain as you go, would you? Is anyone saying anything at this moment, or are you going ahead and taking your seats?
But as she goes out, I'll tip her a silver. Just quietly.
Just a minute. Okay. As you do, you hear kind of a playful chuckle. You can't tell if it's being sarcastic or if it's being genuine. She has a very weird way about her, Lydia, and you hear a always trying to put out fires. Everyone I've always seen is always trying to do their best to keep things so normal around here, and yet there's nothing normal about any of it. And she looks up at you and she goes, for just the next few minutes, try to give that a break. Let's get weird for a few minutes.
He would chuckle, and then honestly, he'd be kind of put back because, he's big on obviously ceremony and stuff like that. And
right, yeah.
But at the same time, well, it is your house. We'll play by your rules.
Okay. A'zara, anything from you?
So she is still in disguise, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so she's likely she was probably already nervous about this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And with that interaction, it's not calmed in the slightest. So she's just maybe a little bit anxious.
Okay, makes sense. As you guys sit on your side of the booth, they're pretty good size. They would fit 3 people comfortably. So you two sitting on the same side of the booth is not cramped by any means, and there's plenty of room in here to do this. These are very comfortable. It's super comfortable up here. This is one of the nicest places you've seen. And if you would compare this, Zara, to the rusticness and the kind of just getting by with what coin they have, kind of Leah's rare and exquisite cuisine seating, this is a whole nother level. You know what I mean? This is next level stuff. And as she pours that tankard, and she looks at the other one, Lydia, and she looks up at Finn, she goes, hope you don't mind. And she pours you another one and pushes it back, and she kind of leans back and she takes a swig out of the bottle and just looks at the two of you. Improvisation.
Yeah. Well, with that, he would take a sip, and I also went ahead and rolled a performance check since,
Mm-hmm.
he would obviously be uncomfortable, but uh with bonuses, it's a 15 for him performing as if he's not nervous.
Okay.
You know, she would have shook him up a little bit with that putting fires thing out, not playing, getting weird.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for the knowledge. Appreciate you, bud. Um, with that, the curtain finally goes closed, and the only light that's really coming in here are from different lights and stuff that are up above all this. The curtain draws, but it's open to the ceiling. And up in the ceiling where those three main chandeliers are, there are reflections of light that bounce off the wood and the beams and stuff in here. And there's a nice warm radiant light inside this place. And in the center of the table is a wine bottle that has a candle inside of it that illuminates it quite beautifully. The bottle itself is transparent and looks like there are butterflies inside the glass, almost like those mysterious stamps in a dollar. When you hold them up to the light, you see the faces. This bottle seems to be the same way. And it illuminates this place and makes it kind of a warm, cozy atmosphere for the three of you.
That he'll relax his eyes, let his pupils swell open, and use a little bit of his night vision or dark vision so that he can see very clearly.
Lydia looks over at you, A'zara, and says, if I'm being completely honest, this is a little bit earlier than I would have planned on eating. Last night was, let's just say I went a little too far. But because of those exploits, I have plenty of coins, so I'll not be asking you to pay a dime for any of that fine fighting spirits wine that you're having right now. Let me give you a little, let me give you some perspective about how this place functions. See, there are a lot of places that are safer in New Gemdar. Places where a girl can really let her hair down. And she kind of looks over at you and looks at your long brown hair that's kind of hanging off, A'zara. She goes, but in those places, you always have to worry about the things that are coming for you. Just like sleeping out underneath the stars, knowing that you could wake up with bugs in your hair or snakes in your boots. The trick is to go somewhere where people don't care enough about what's going on. She looks at you and she nods. She goes, I have my own illusionary magic that I use just so I don't cripple this normally chaotic city with misunderstanding and panic about what it is that we are. If they only knew the things that were happening underneath their feet right now, I'll tell you this, they wouldn't be as happy as they are. She goes, go ahead.
The waitress didn't seem as comfortable. Is that common?
Well, I'll ask you this. Just because someone is clever and witty doesn't mean they're good at their job. And let's just say I've been let down by her enough times to where I make that call. Sometimes I give her instruction, and sometimes it's not carried out exactly as I feel it should be. And if I'm going to pay the ridiculous prices that I do here for that comfort, I expect her to do a little bit better. And she knows it because I've made it known. That is all. Don't worry. It's people like me that make people like you seem nice. We help each other.
People like me seem nice.
Well, don't you think so? And she kind of looks at you like she peers down, like she's looking underneath a hood that's not on you. Like she's kind of looking down at you a little bit. And she goes, I've heard nothing but great things from Vander. She goes, don't worry, he's nervous too. And she looks over at you, Finn, when she says this. And he has right to be. Because what are we if not a reminder that some things are better left unseen and people being unaware of? No one wants to think that for every pretty thing that has wings and flies around in mountains made of lollipops and dreams and rainbows, then on the other side of that, there are people being born every day in darkness and in shadows with horns. Ding! And she flips it with her fingernail. They grow out of the back of their head.
You seem different. I mean, I'm not used to seeing people like me, but you seem etheric.
And I suppose the psychologist would ask you how that makes you feel. And she kind of smiles.
Just for context, at this point, Finn has no idea what either of them are talking about, correct?
That's up to you. That's up to Finn. Yeah.
Well, he doesn't know A'zara's secret yet, obviously.
Right.
And has she actually shown us the one?
You know she changes her shape. You've caught her doing it before.
Yes, okay.
But you don't know to
I
what
don't-
degree.
I don't wait.
Yep,
Did
when
he
you changed
see her?
in now. Yep. When you changed in now from the old man, and when you took on the other shape of another family member, Danny was rolling rolls in the background and had serious suspicions as to
Gotcha.
what was going on.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure in each of those she did hide away or leave, rather than change in the open.
Yeah, when you did the old man thing up on there, and I've reviewed that.
Okay.
It was done in the open. It was done pretty carefully. It was done pretty well, but Rook picked up that something definitely was going on, and Rook and Danny had had a conversation a few nights before. So
Gotcha,
it's
gotcha.
context for them about trying to put pieces together and figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where we are. Don't worry, Bella. You have all the mystique in the world still. It's no big deal.
He would say, well, it's definitely true that anything that is attuned to darkness, as some people would call, have been hunted at some time or another.
She smiles and she looks at you. And she's kind of gauging you up for a minute. Do you seem tired at all, even though you're awake during the day for a Lunesti elf?
No, because he doesn't actually, because where elves don't actually sleep, he did get his version of the long rest, which is 4 hours. That was the night that, well, actually, I don't know how many nights that's been since him and Rook did their thing. So he could look very tired depending on that, because I wasn't here for that part.
Okay. Go ahead and roll me a Constitution check. I have a DC.
Holy crap, I love this character. I got a nat 20 on a con check.
You drink Red Bull, sir. Red Bull, it gives you wings. You've got it. You're good. You are not sleepy, sir. You are good.
Wow, that's different.
Yeah, that is the dude. I mean, yeah, night and day, sir. So she looks at you in that moment, and she's studying you like she's looking under your hood as well. And she says, let's see. She goes, it seems that you've adapted rather well.
Part of my training. He goes ahead and lets his hood down so it's easier for her to peek. White locks showing and the slight tint of black underneath.
Okay. She looks you up and down, and you can see that she's searching you for runic markings. Now, this is something that only you and her know in this predicament. But there are a lot of markings that your people go through, different magical classes. When they mark each other in this way, they only appear under moonlight and things of that nature. You see her looking in places where she's looking for those as if she could identify those. And that takes you back as well. Not only is she looking for them and knows exactly what places on your face they would be resting, but to think that she could see them in this place right now doesn't
Rolls
make
his
a whole
right.
hell of a lot of sense.
He rolls his right hand over because it would be something that's not common, but it would still be a mark.
And she
His
looks
sword
at
hand.
that, and she looks back up at you, and she slowly and somewhat seductively she goes, "So you know what it is I seek."
We
Clever.
had a guess.
Hmm.
Only ones you'll find on my face are family marks, though. Mm.
Or until you find something else to replace them with as you grow and learn. Is that how the gist of it is nowadays? It's been quite a while since I've been in the graces of that ritual.
Yes, but this particular, you were looking for trademarks, you'll find it on my hand.
Okay. She looks over at A'zara and she kind of runs her finger across her teeth and touches a pointed canine just a little bit and pulls at her chin a little bit, and she kind of laughs and she goes, "But you are immaculate. You don't show any tells of what it is that you are, what you really are." She goes, "A'zara," because it's the first time I think she's ever really said your name out loud. She goes, "The curtain's drawn. Vander said that you wished to see me, and so here I am. But now I wish to see you. I think it's only polite."
I think Azara takes like a shaky breath, like one that kind of you could tell rattles her frame a little bit.
Danny, pick up on that too. Okay.
Um, there was like a bottle of wine on the table, right?
Absolutely. She poured you a cup, him a cup, and she had the bottle over there, yes. You could reach it if you wanted.
Uh, yeah, she's gonna reach over and grab it and take like a big swig from it.
Okay.
Um, and then like after like another moment or two, she'll like, because her whole thing is like the mask, right?
Yes. Yes, you have it.
So I'm thinking that almost like I'm trying to think how to put this to, because I got a particular image in my head earlier,
Yeah.
so I want to incorporate it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
But
go ahead, please.
it's almost like this notion of like, to anybody looking externally, it's like she almost like presses like a finger to her forehead and like it traces it down to her temple, and then almost like those like really thin elastic strings that you get on like a party mask.
Yes.
So she like almost as if you're going to like lift up the corner of one of those and take off the mask, like suddenly there's a string that wasn't there quite before. And
That's
then as
cool.
she like slowly moves the mask down, like quite the opposite from her human appearance, like the color begins to drain from her dark hair to become like a stark white.
Oh, wow.
The kind of color to her skin also fading, but I think her skin is actually like a gray, if I recall. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a gray. So like the almost like paint coming, almost like sliding off. It's now like shifting from like a melanin like human skin tone to like stone gray,
Yeah.
and then like eventually it's almost like a melting off before the kind of mask has fully popped off, and it's like in her hand now, like almost like expressionless. Um, and she's sitting there as her, very clearly uncomfortable and now kind of like staring downwards and like not looking up at this point. if anything, she grabbed and took like another swig from the bottle before kind of like shakily putting the mask on the table, and her eyes are just like glued downward as of right now.
Okay. Finn, do you have anything you want to say to react to that before I do?
He would have probably kind of went for a second and then caught himself. It would have been an immediate surprise because he didn't know. And then back to ambassador cool. And
That's fair.
Her body language is
16 performance for that.
Okay. And what's your body language, you said, Bella?
very rigid.
Okay. Ooh, that's awesome. Okay. When you do that, Danny, you look back over and glance around, you'll see Lydia has made eye contact with you and has locked eyes on you.
He would nod, like, obviously, if she caught it, she knows that he didn't know exactly what she is. But for now, he's, he suspected she was a shapeshifter. He just didn't know what her form was. So
you see her take the wine bottle back slowly, and she clinks it to your glasses. She goes, well, I've got good news. You're pretty. I've seen a lot that weren't. I have memories of some pretty ugly people that share the horns. And thank goodness you and I are not amongst them. Let's all have a drink to good genetics.
and smiles and tips his glass.
He holds it up like that, and she's just very, very upfront for that, and she's waiting for you to join her. A'zara, what are you doing?
I think the minute she called her pretty, her head snapped up in confusion. And I don't think she has a verbal response yet, so I think she just has like a very confused expression, a
Yes.
clink of the glass, and a downing of the contents.
Awesome. Okay, so with that, she looks at you and she goes, I'm not going to make this as overly dramatic as everybody else will. But I'll say this. Vander's told me that you have your reasons, and I understand them. I didn't ask, and I don't want to know, because I've got a lot of my own problems. But I'll tell you one thing, young lady. And she's not much older than you when she calls you young lady. Okay? She goes, the kind of problems, the ones that really matter. She looks over at you, and she takes her fingers, and she runs them through your hair and brushes it back over your horns to reveal them a little bit more. She goes, have nothing to do with any of this. And the second you start realizing that, you'll be free. And she kind of sits back and she looks. But to be the entertainer that you are, and I was one of the people there that saw everything that went down yesterday, in disguise, of course, as we're so good at it naturally, it turns out. She says that well, it would be a shame to just not use that to the fullest, don't you all think? And she's talking about your ability to look different than you do. Okay? Bella?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, I'll tell you what. On certain nights, above this fine establishment, there is a greenhouse of sorts. It's a place where Merrick, the brewmaster here, does his work, and there's a very late night game of cards that we play there. And we are all ourselves in all of its glorious stupidity and earnest, and it is eye-opening. if you would so choose, meet us there sometime. You'll know, because there will be a light on that you will be able to see from the street. Make your way up, but only like this. We don't use disguises in that safe place. And we'll go from there. Now, before I get back to trying to drink away the hangover from last night's game, I told Vander and my sister that I would answer some questions for you. But I want you to understand you're going to get my version of the answers, not the fucking myths and the bullshit that you're going to read from the textbooks, and the clerics are going to tell you. Ooh, she goes, her fingers like this, She goes, so I'll give you two questions. And then we'll see how you do at cards, and then we'll maybe move forward from there. So if there's anything, A'zara, you were wondering about the blood that's pumping through your veins, ask now.
To break it a little bit, he leans over and whispers loudly enough for her to hear. Ask her what the meaning of life is.
She looks at you, and she looks over at you and gives you like kind of like a seductive wink and like a side smile. Roll a charisma check, please.
Oh, 17 total.
Okay, so I rolled a natural 19. Lydia has an ability to fluster people. And it is not sexually explicit either. It is just people in general. And you, sir, are flustered right now by her. Okay? This is just a little bit too close to home, a little bit too real. She's just a little bit too attractive. There's a little bit something too clever about her, too sharp about her. In that brief moment in interaction where she caught you being clever and gave you gratitude for it, in a look and a wink and a bite of the lip and things like that, you are flustered by her at this point. Okay? Take it in. Take it in. Right? Okay. So, you can choose whether or not you saw that little interaction and wonder if you're starting to lose Finn to this stranger or not, A'zara. You don't know what's going on in here. But, do you have questions?
I do. Am I dangerous? Like a monster type dangerous?
She sighs a little bit, and she's kind of shaking her head back and forth, and she goes, yes. And she smiles, and she looks up at you.
She immediately frowns at this and like shrinks inward.
She says, because when you're ready. And she looks down at that mug on the bar in front of, on the table between you two. And her eyes grow a little wide. And she moves her fingers and she looks at it. You sense and see like a very, very minor distortion to her horns. It's almost like they're shaking. It's almost like they're subsonically, they're shaking. And you almost, A'zara, you almost feel as if you hear like a low hum. I want you to roll me a history check. And I want to see if this does something for you.
Hey, let's roll. Wait, what's my modifier?
History's wisdom, right?
History is intelligence.
Okay. So it's a 1.
So I rolled a 9, so that's a 10.
A 10. 10 gets us there, but it only gives you a little bit. When you were little, like some of your first memories of Hector and them, you had a real hard time sleeping. And you've kind of forgot about it and you've gotten used to things, of course, because you're a young adult now and things have moved on. But you remember screaming, headaches, not being able to communicate right, and Hector and them trying to just calm you down. You remember that his soothing voice, you know, the way that Hector speaks, and humming you songs. And the hum from the bassiness of his voice soothed you. He would actually rest his chin on your head. And he would sit by your bed and he would hum songs, and that vibration, you would feel it through your head, and it would help make the headaches go away, and it would help you be able to fall asleep and stuff. And you don't know how long you did this, but you could dozens upon dozens of times, and you remember this. Okay? This hum reminds you of that, and it also reminds you of the pain in which you felt when you were trying to sleep as a child before. There were this hum would get louder and louder and louder, and you wouldn't know how to deal with it. There was one particular night when a bunch of glasses and urns and stuff. For a while, Hector and them sold handcrafted bottles and stuff that were made out of blown glass and things like that. And you actually shattered a whole bunch of them one night. You don't know how it happened or why, but these vibrations that come from you did this. And you're recalling this. And as she looks down, the steel mug in front of you begins to very gently shake. Then all of a sudden, and it starts to fold in on itself. And when it's done, she has crushed that steel mug into the size of like 1/3 of its normal size. And it just kind of rolls around and falls on its side. And when she's done, you can see her eyes just kind of settle back down. It's almost like her hair and that vibration that was going on from the horns that you could just barely see washes away. And she goes, when it's needed, we can be very dangerous.
Is that the gravity spell?
She looks over and she looks at Finn and smiles. And she goes, that's darling of you that you think it's a spell. It's in your blood. No conjuration here, just acceptance. It's how our people survived and communicated in the darkness far down beneath these lands baked in sun. She goes, vibrations controlled by our horns, the echoes, the chiming within the great chasms underneath were not only weapons used by our people from the earliest times, but also as warnings, ceremonies. She even smiles and she kind of runs her finger along her bottom lip. She goes, even mating rituals. And she kind of grins and she looks at you again, A'zara. She goes, you have one more question
left. Wait. That was like she was using the gravity thing, right?
Mm-hmm. She was.
And Finn and Rook, I think, had experienced it when they were outside of the door, right?
They did. Which was awesome. That was a great scene too. That makes me. This is general genuine smiling right now, just thinking back to that scene. That was fantastic.
I think there is a dark blush across her her stone colored skin that like almost like reaches to her ears, which I think are longer and pointed, right?
A little bit. They're kind of
Yeah.
back angled. They're not extraordinarily long, but they are
Mhm.
pointed and angled back. They angle back underneath of your horns.
And I imagine that when it comes to just how it may show up on her skin, that it would be just like a darker gray,
Sure.
I'm
I mean,
assuming.
I'll be honest. I've never really went there, but let's say sure.
Yeah, I'm torn between the idea of a very dark red or a dark gray.
I would
Anyway,
say
there's
some red comes to the surface to a degree, but it'd
mhm,
be more of a dark crimson. Yeah.
yeah. Um, let's see. So let's see. I'm now at a loss because it's an important. Oh wait, I think she did say that she'll get more questions if she does the game thing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of what she's throwing out there. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I guess she may say of like, why have I never seen anyone like us until now?
And I'm curious. Azara, do you have the same accent and stuff in this phase as well? Because that's what you've learned, or is the accent part of your mystique when you are playing that other character? I'm curious.
Um,
Both are cool answers. I just don't know the way you're spinning this, and I know you enjoy that kind of thing, so I'm just curious.
I think I think probably it does change to a degree because
Okay.
maybe even like if to get physical, like if her physical body is changing, maybe even her vocal cord
Yeah.
like change to a degree.
And whatever
Um,
accent that Darieblins might actually have in their saying, I will throw this at you if you choose to use it. And this is
sure.
kind of based on what we just did. I've sit back often and daydreamed, because we're all creating fantasy characters and all that shit, but we rarely go into what's their accents. Do they sound Canadian? Do they sound like New York? I mean, what do they do? And I've always thought that they speak, and you know how I was talking about that vibration and that hum from the voice?
Hmm.
Their vowels and the ends of their words at the end of sentences sometimes linger on with quaint hums or sounds of that nature, like the last word of their sentence will kind of run on. As they say things, sometimes they will let them linger. And
Okay.
it has that roll to them, and that's all about the kind of language they use. They use that. So I don't expect you to master that because I sure as hell can't. But
Yeah.
maybe some of that bleeds through when you're not putting on the full mask thing. Okay?
I do like that kind of imagery because it could very well be like the vocal cords have changed in her in the natural form. So
Absolutely.
like it makes sense why I would then go from like hello, my name is Ashara. It's a pleasure to meet you to
Yeah.
like but what or
Yes.
where are we
Yes.
even?
Yeah.
Like
That's all.
almost like yeah, almost like her words even slow down in this form too, because almost like the humming resonating
Hmm.
slows down her pace even.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that is pretty cool. I think we just made that canon, and that's pretty awesome, Bella.
Wow, made it canon.
I like it. Yes.
Crazy.
Nice. Nice. So, yeah, that's awesome. Um, so the answer to your question, let's see. And it was, why have I never seen? Okay. She looks at you, and all of her charisma and things like that, she looks over at Finn for a minute, And she gets a look like she's not going to enjoy what she has to tell you here. And she goes, I know how I came to be from here. But unfortunately, you are the genuine article. You see, A'zara, you've been through a painful thing that our people often go through that I never had to endure. And it's because you were given a death sentence when you were brought here. Our kind don't come here by their own will. We are purged here. Be thankful that we live in the place that we do, and not with those egotistical, devoid of meaning and purpose, pompous and ruthless, heartless sons of bitches that share our gifts and our good genes. She goes, I don't even know that a woman would be able to have a bottle like this and drink it down there without creating an uproar. And she looks at that bottle and she holds it up and she looks at it for a minute and she kind of pours a little bit on the table playfully and looks at it and just, such a foolish thing. She takes another sip of it, a hard one, swallows it back quick and sits the bottle down. She goes, the politics and the family organizations where we're from are very, very strict. You could almost call it borderline evil, but the problem is it's not evil inherently. See, evil's a perception. Evil's what side of the evil you're looking at, where you're standing. To them, disrespect and disobedience is death. Period. It's never altered. And to my knowledge, and from what I've found over the last several years, it is never going to change there. It is a harsh and cool place. This version of you that can smile and enjoy that drink and enjoy these people would never have found itself had you been in that place. Now, make no mistake, our kind, and by our kind I mean women, are very powerful there. But it comes at a cost. And that cost is losing ourselves and becoming part of that system. You were cast out. And for someone of your age, that's a death sentence. So however you came to live to be the ripe age that you are, and from the look of your persona and her accent, to be cast out in the sands of the mere, someone must have really hated either your family or you. But at your age, I'd say it was more your family. The thing is, they more than likely didn't deserve it, based on our beliefs. But make no mistake, being from that place, giving a friendly advice to someone out of line and out of order is enough to be cast down and exiled. So don't think of yourself as you didn't do anything wrong.
I think she may snort a bit at that. Yeah. Kind of like and I'm thinking maybe like some of the alcohol had begun to kick in at that point.
Absolutely. Roll a constitution check for me.
Let's see. 18 plus 2. So a dirty 20.
Okay, I'll let you know how you did in just a minute.
Okay.
You did very well.
Okay.
You're getting warm, but that's it.
So she's feeling a little toasty and
Yeah.
she's kind of reaching for the mask again because she's like, okay, so what you're telling me is I am dangerous for what I am,
She
and
smiles at that.
I somehow am so hated that it's a wonder that I'm here. Comforting.
It should be comforting to know that you're beyond the hatred of fools now. Prosper. Live your life. My sister and I
Didn't
have.
say you were dangerous. She said you had the ability to be dangerous if you chose.
She looks at you and she goes, I like him.
Hmm.
She looks at you and she goes, let's go ahead and put that to the test. She reaches down and she pushes the mug back over to you. She says, fix that. Go on. See if you can undo it.
I think she looks long at it
Yeah.
and she sighs and then she attempts, yeah.
Okay. Paint me a picture. Tell me what this is like, and I'm going to have you roll for the potency of your spell because that's something that we do in the Tales of Ulran, which is really, really awesome. And by the way, innate inept ability, not really a spell. So, explain to me what you're going to try to do and what it looks like, and then I'll have you roll a 1d20 plus your spell save modifiers, which would be under your spell DC on your character sheet. Okay? Do you
Okay,
remember where
so
that is?
let's see. So
Okay.
see. Um,
Because there's two in the middle of your character sheet. There's a box there that talks about your
got it.
weapons and stuff. Underneath that are two books.
Yeah, I
One
got it.
is your spell attack, and the other is your spell DC or the potency of your spell casting.
So they are the same number, which is pretty radical because the less math I have to do, the better.
Right on, I get it. Yep.
So I rolled an 18 and that's plus 5, so 23.
23 potency. I like it. Okay. So,
So
oh yeah. Okay. Tell me what you're trying to do. That's awesome.
so I think she stares at it like she's in a little bit of a place of emotion and not comforted at the moment. And I think for a good long while she's staring at it and even maybe it crinkles in more on itself, like going the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And she kind of gets like a little frustrated with it. Um, and then maybe it's the willingness for something stupid to happen, or maybe it's because the little bit of heat that's coursing through her system, but then she like pauses and she breathes and she looks at it and she's just like, choose to be powerful. I don't even know what or who I am. And then I think she kind of breathes deeply and she's like, so like I'm not even sure what you expect right now. And then I think she closes her eyes
Mm-hmm.
and she is disconnecting from it to a degree, almost breathing to calm herself down.
Yeah.
But then as she's breathing to calm herself down, the little bit of crinkling inward in the cup begins to expand and with her breathing expand out. to where it kind of was.
That's interesting. Finn, when you're seeing this, you're seeing her chest expand as if she's taking a deep breath, and you can see that same thing pulsing in through this mug that seems to be correcting itself. Finn, roll a Constitution saving throw for me.
Constitution save.
You got a natural 20 last time, bud. Keep it rolling.
No, it's 16 plus 2, 18.
18's good. It's not the 23 that she did, but it's good. And then you're watching that, you find that, you know, when you're flying and you're taking off and the muscles in your neck have to get a little bit sore because of the force, and you feel yourself sit back in your seat a little bit from the G-forces of things like that, when she's doing this, you're feeling things of that nature. You're feeling the gravity around you pulling at you and stuff in this area. Not as intense as what's going on there, but you can feel it definitely. You can feel you're having to hold your neck kind of stiff to keep yourself in the position that you are as it's going on. And Lydia looks over at you and gives you another wink, like, it's all right. You know, she doesn't say it, but she gives you another look. And she can see what you're going through. She can see the buckles and the armor and stuff that you have starting to tighten. She can hear a couple things crink and things like that as you're going through the motions. Did I lose you guys, or you still see me?
We got you.
Okay. The one camera here started to dip down, so I want to make sure I didn't lose you guys. Okay. So, with that, the cup is in pretty good shape with the roll that you made, Bella. Okay? And she pours you guys a little bit more into your cups, and she looks at it, and she shakes the bottle a little bit, and she gives Finn a little bit more, and she goes, "That's fair." And she goes, "So, I'll see you. I have a lot of things to do, and it's early, and I didn't expect it to start this way, but I'll take what I can get." She goes, "Do what you want to do. Be who you want to be because you can. And because they made a mistake, because they didn't think you were worth keeping around. Prove them wrong." Just a minute. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Finn raises his glass and he says to her in Elvish, "May the moon always shine on your shoulders and your eyes see through the shadows." And he tips it down.
Okay. She says back to you in Elven with her slight tint of the accent. May the sigils shine brightest on the places most deserving. And she looks to you and she takes a swig and she goes, "A'zara, I look forward to seeing you. And maybe next time my sister will be with me. She is in between the place that you and I are at. And she's fighting her own battles. That would be someone interesting for you to meet. But she will not join me at the games. That's not quite her speed. She's a little bit more laid back than I am." She stands up and she scoots over a little bit and she's looking at the curtains and she's getting ready to open them up to walk outside of this place. And she looks back over at you, A'zara. "What are you doing?"
So I think that she honestly didn't hear the cup unfurling because I think there was like a hum in her own horns that then kind of almost like covered that noise to her internally.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So she thought she didn't register that anything actually happened. She just sort of like was centering her breathing again, and was sort of just like, what's the point type feeling. And her eyes probably opened when she was getting up and getting ready to leave, and during that process she was probably putting her mask back on.
Okay.
I don't think she's going to register that the mug was actually affected until she's gone, because I don't think she's even thought to look.
That's
The
interesting. Go ahead.
mask isn't all the way on before the curtain opens. He would step to the opening of the curtain, pulling his hood up to block as much of the light entering as he could.
Awesome.
Until mask on.
I'll let that happen. But I will say, as you're doing that and you're moving around, those rays of light that come in between the curtain of Danny and the ones that she's bringing back to walk out of this place, as she walks out, and she kind of has a seductive, somewhat walk with one foot in front of the other, legs crossing a bit, as she makes her way back down the stairway with her hand on the railing. One of the beams of light from the chandelier comes across and catches that mug. And that's when you realize that you fixed it. Dangerous. More. Is it dangerous, or is it just a tool like everything else?
I'm thinking that this may be the first time she used the other side of the gravity thing.
Yeah.
Because if I would guess, she probably instinctually has used the enhanced gravity before.
Yes, she
maybe
has.
more has like an instinctual protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is like an opposite of that she's never not done before.
It is.
Like,
and I think this fits that, and I'm going to say that spell description because we turned it into an inept ability for you because it is written as a spell that I saw. But, I think in the description of it, it can do both things.
It can, yeah.
That's
I've
what
only
I
used
kind of
it.
touch on. That's cool.
Yeah. I've only used it in one way before, and I could see how growing up she may unintentionally use it as a protective thing growing up. Because I think the opposite requires an intentional use of it, where it's like the less of like, yeah. I'm struggling to phrase what I'm thinking of, but yeah.
It's all good. I just had a thought too. I want you to think, imagine on down the road if something big bites onto you and has a hold of you, and you do that to make its jaw open up. If you reverse it, if
Yeah.
somebody's grappling you and you're just like, no,
Yeah.
Their arms just go, whoa, So that's an interesting use,
Also, something kind of funny, the way that you were describing her walking. So as you know, I ballroom dance, and
Yes.
maybe we'll explore integrations of that in the dancer class in the future once we figure that out. But there's a thing in some of the Latin dances, and then I'm actually being taught by my teacher and a bit next week, called rumba walks, which is like almost like that kind of sexy sort of catwalk thing that like they have in the dances. And when you were describing, I'm like, is this woman rumba walking right now?
Well, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
I looked into some of the stuff like that, and there's some things, and we're going to get there. It's going to be cool.
I just think it's funny, like the way that she's walking. I'm like, wait a minute, is that rumba walk?
If it was the other character, he would be analyzing, is she walking this way because she has a tail? Because he would be looking for movement and stuff, but this guy, not as much.
Right. Point made, bud. Okay. So, Mr. Keaton, are you around? Did you just keep this up to do that, or are you available?
He had to run on a call. He sent us a message.
Okay. Any word about when he'll be back?
Not so far.
Okay. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to call him and see if he'll be able to jump back in moving forward. And then once that happens, we will paint the next parts of the picture and see how everything goes. Does that sound good? Okay. So let me get ready to pause my recording here real quick. And 3, 2, 1, early break. Okay, I think are we moving again? Make sure. Yeah, I think we are. Yep, I see the time ticking away. It's good stuff. On the OBS side of things, over here, Zoom's like, hey, it's good. OBS doesn't tell you shit. You got to really look and see what's going on. So that's good. Jeremy will be back with us shortly. He got called out to do some work at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. So if you kids out there don't know anything about dedication, that's a thing that happens in the adult world, right? The rest of us are all hanging out having coffee, drinking beers, and whatever the hell else we're doing. And some of us have to go out and work at 8 o'clock at night. So here you go. All right, so Arson, hey buddy, let's go ahead and jump back into what you're going to be doing. Okay, so you and Jeremy, or Arson and Rook, have already kind of decided that this Enel Brookwater, this job that he's proposed to you, and the high amount of coin he's willing to pay to have this monstrosity, perversion in nature, mushroom devouring, whatever the hell it is, taken care of in their own private grove for the meadery and winery, sounded pretty good to you all. I'll repaint the picture a little bit. You don't know anything exactly about the level of danger here. You just know that this guy really sold it as if you guys could take care of the job. But now that he's walked away, and you and Rook have been here thinking about this, it's starting to set in that you're getting paid 15,000 singet for a reason. You know what I mean? So I'm curious. You can I'll be Rook if you want to have a conversation with me, or you can just tell me as Colby what's some things that you kind of want to do in preparation for this gig. And if you have any questions, is there anyone in here you want to ask about it? You could look for locals that you think work there that maybe survived the attack on their grove, on their orchard, you could call it. What is, Colby, I know an orchard is like a fruit growing place. What would you call a place that just grows mushrooms? I don't know if I'm just going to call it orchard for now, just because it's kind of like this mystical orchard that they have that statue that keeps it in springtime conditions. But I don't know what you call a place that grows fungi. Danny, do you know what that'd be called?
What's that?
A place that just kind of grows like mushrooms and different stuff like that for brewing. It's not an orchard. Is it strictly fruit?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't either, bud. That's what I'm saying. It's all good.
A grove, maybe?
We'll call it a grove for now. We'll call it a grove. Okay, so Colby.
I know some guys that I used to know that did mushrooms. They would call it a cow pasture.
They would call it a cow pasture. They would call it a Thursday night. Yes, sir. So, Colby, what is Arson's mind? Do you have anything you're wanting to look up? You want to ask Rook about anything? Or what would you like to use to investigate moving forward? Or how would you want to present this and tell everyone that is upstairs? You notice in pondering this that the curtains have opened and this horned, part demon, part human, part like woman walks out of that place, and you can see her as she wears like a cloak over a short one over her shoulders and about down to her waistline that kind of covers parts of her back. As she flips it around and readdresses, you can see her tightening up several leather belts that wrap around her, and you get you can see knife hilts, several of them along her. What are you doing in this moment, bud? I'll give you a chance to have the stage before Jeremy gets back.
I think he's gonna see if he can notice anyone that might have survived one of these attacks, either working or just sitting around drinking.
Okay. So I would say give me a perception check as A'zara and Finn are coming back down the stairway, heading back over to you. Both seem to have mugs that seem to be full the way they're walking. Danny, Lena, your camera down or your head up a little bit, boss. You are half crest. Sorry about that, man.
Oh, good.
What'd you get, boss?
I'm gonna say 16.
A 16. Okay, let me see what that does for you. Okay, that's interesting. As you're looking around, your main priority here is you're looking for someone that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're looking for someone that may have worked there, that is an employee of the Fighting Spirits Meadery and Winery, that might have some information, right? Okay.
Yeah, either on shift or that they're just sitting there drinking or
Okay.
enjoying good times.
Okay, so as in many places, you're looking for folks that maybe work here, couldn't afford to be here normally. Maybe they're just employees that are here because they get a discount or they know somebody otherwise they wouldn't be in here. And you do see a group of that. There's two people, and on the inside walls there are a couple standing tables. Okay, and the way I'll describe these, they're about 2 to 2.5 foot wide boards that are connected to the walls that are finely crafted that come out, and they have stools that are made of iron that look like leaves and vines and stuff with fake bushels of berries and stuff that have been painted reds and greens and purples. Very ornate stools that have warm leather seats on them and backs. And these are long-standing bars that people can just stand and lean on as they watch events. Okay? And there's several dozen of those that line the back wall. They have one main beam that holds them to the floor other than being connected to the wall itself. Okay? And on that you see two halflings. Okay? They are dressed in something that is somewhat similar to what Enel Brookwater had on, which is a red vest, white pirate shirt, black pants. But these folks here, these red vests aren't quite as fine. The pirate shirts, not quite as piratey, okay? And they have on commoners like workers like hats. I would say it, I forget, what's the name of the hat that lays down flat, Danny, that golfers wear that has the real short bill on the front?
Scally cap?
Yeah, something, they have those. Those made out of leather, and one made out of like a gray and black wool like mesh. It looks a little itchy, and they're wearing those. And there's two of them over there talking. And as they're doing that, you see the one guy's hands, and he's making this motion like this. And he's going like this, and the other one's over there smoking a pipe, and it's got a really curly white and gray beard that matches the white and gray of his hat. And he's just kind of nodding. He's like, oh, yes, I understand what you're saying there. It must have been a terrible thing. And the two are talking about this in the distance. You can only imagine that this might talk about this creature that's in that glen. That's your only lead you'll get for those roles and this. What is it that you're doing?
He's gonna go up there, go and walk up to him and politely ask, you're referring to a creature that attacks this brewery's marsh mushroom
Grove.
garden or grove.
I know, right? We just debated this, right? I know. When that happens, someone goes, hey, keep it down. Shh. Hummel, he knows about the Grove monster that we was talking about there. He's got to be careful what he's saying. The other one goes, sure, we must be careful how we talk about those things, especially in public. He says, I did see it. Survived it, I did. And he reaches over and reaches his arm up, and on the side of his vest you can see tears and stuff like that, and what seems to be large bite marks out of his clothing and acid burns. Okay? And he says, might do to have a little bit of a drink before I go telling that story again, though. I wouldn't want to relive that for nothing.
Um,
The other
he's gonna
one's looking
reply.
at both of you like this, like it's a tennis match. Like he's eager. Like he's like, oh, free booze for a story. You know, he's thinking about it. He's looking at the two of you. You have locked eyes with the one with the white curly beard and the black and gray cap. The older one of the two has one squinty eye.
Yeah, he's like, if it's a drink that will get you to tell me what I need to know, I'll get us all three a drink. And he like whistles like to a bartender and like around on me.
Okay. Look at that. He said around on him. You're going to tell the story again, just like you told us the other day? He goes, I tell the story. Just 1 minute. And he puts his little elbows on the bench and he looks at you. And he kind of squints his eye and looks you up and down. He goes, I can see that you've seen your share of troubles. I see you have a blade there that's probably not all that sharp anymore because of all the cutting you've been doing with it. He says, but I'll tell you right now, for all the garden I've done all my life, for all the rabbit holes and all the different things that I've dealt with and all the weeds and briars and mulberry bushes, I've never seen anything like this in my life. He's looking around and he takes a little bit of a look at what he has left over and he's looking around, see them waitresses are coming back and he goes, I reckon I'll get started then. And he takes a big swig off of it and he holds it up and the drips are coming off there and he goes, hopefully we can make another one of this and save the shrooms that are all there. As we're starting to run out. We keep that quiet though. We don't want people to know that what they're drinking could be in jeopardy. Could be extinct. Could be no more. And the other one goes, no more. He looks kind of like he's half drunk, but he's sad because what they're drinking, they may not get anymore. And he says to you, he goes, if you're thinking about going over there, I saw the master talking to you earlier, just a few moments ago, and I saw that look in your eye, you and your dark friend over there. But I'll tell you this. It'll eat you the same as it'll eat those little mushrooms. You bet your sweet ass it will. And it wouldn't hesitate. You see, it stays warm all the time there in the glen. There's a statue there for his dear departed grandmother. But she gave it a gift, you see. It's always springtime in the Fighting Spirits Glen. And the other one speaks up and he goes, and because it's always warm there in the glen, everything that doesn't like the cold tries to get in. It's always warm in the glen, and everything's always trying to get in. It's always warm. And the old man smacks him on the back of the head and he goes, we're trying to keep it down. For fuck's sake. That creature makes little ones. That you can be certain. And if they grow based on how much they've been eaten, well, I'd say you'll just make a morsel for it. So what else are you wanting to know? Other than the fact that it has large, cold eyes that look down on you, and then when it screeches, there's something like looking into a creature that doesn't have a heart or soul. Plants don't care for none of that. All they care about is eating and growing. And I suppose they could do a lot of eating and growing from something like yourself. I'd be weary about going there. What do you say to that?
Well, he would make a remark to how he survived. I'm like, Well, if you survived, I bet I surely will.
The one says, the only reason he survived is because you threw all the shrooms at him. He goes, shut up, you fuck. He turns around, looks at him, and he goes, I was fearing for my life. I could make do of losing a couple dozen of those delectable shrooms, but, you know, death is death, and it's awful sudden. He kind of smiles at him like that, and he goes, I had agreed. Death is sudden. And the two kind of give each other a nod. You can tell they seem to be related somehow, but you can't quite make out if this is a father and son, or if this is an older brother and younger brother. But just then, when they both nodded and shook their head at the same time, they are related in some way. Okay? He says, I'll tell you, it seems that those mushrooms, especially the blue ones. Oh, and he goes like this, he's touching his face. At this point, Finn, I'm going to say you have made your way over to this. As Rook is sitting back at the table that Arson got up from, looking over some plans and looking over the contract with a little bit finer detail than Arson did. Okay? So, Rook is back at the table kind of looking things over, but A'zara and you, I will say, if it's okay, have made your way over to Arson as he's having a conversation with these two halfling workers. Is that cool?
It's good to me.
And
Sounds good.
And you would have heard the last few comments of that. And when he says, especially the blue ones, he goes, the blue ones are an abnormality. You'll see, they're not something that was expected, but they're something that will win awards. You bet your sweet ass they will. If you can go there and find the blue ones, I'd say your reward would probably be doubled, maybe not even fucking tripled, if you're able to bring that back. But good luck getting out of the jaws of that. And he just goes like that again. And he makes a hell of a face. And he winces and he works his elbow above where those rip marks and shit are on his vest. And he goes, I barely made it out of there alive myself, but I'll tell you this. Had it not been for those mushrooms, I wouldn't be here drinking this sweet wine today. And he kind of looks sad for a minute. And he puckers up a little bit. And he takes another swig off the bottle, a long, sad one. So you think you can do it? You think you can slay it? I have no name of the creature. I've never seen anything quite like it in my life. Looks like a bulberry breed, or a bulb that's grown mad and gotten hungry and quadrupled itself in size, even beyond that, 20, 30 times bigger. I've never seen anything quite like that. It could eat 3 of me whole, and it's still growing. And he looks over at you and A'zara, and he's kind of sizing you up, looking tough, looking at you two to see if the story is scaring you away or not.
I take it we've accepted a contract.
Oh, they don't even know what they're getting into. the two start going around. He goes, well, I'll tell you what, it's getting awful late. I'll let you two have it. Hopefully you'll have my sweet shrooms back.
Need to run off.
Guard to tell your own tale.
No need to run off. So Arson,
brother, he goes, no one was running. And he looks at you for a minute. He goes, I just take my leave greatly and with gratitude. Unless you had a question or something else to offer me. He sits the mug down on the bar and looks at you. And the other one, which could possibly be the brother, kind of doubles his arms up and gives you like this proud, kind of tough look. You know, for a halfling, he looks like a stocky little fellow. But to you, it's just comical. Okay? What are you saying, Finn?
So it sounds like a flower was going to eat you. Is that what I'm getting?
The younger one, Hamel, says he makes it sound like it was nothing but a little flower that was going to eat us. He goes, no little flower friend was going to eat anyone. We were going to be attacked by a monster. And you'd do well to Give it heed.
How many legs did it have?
How many what now?
Legs. How did it move?
He wants to know how many fucking legs the thing has. He thinks he can outrun it. And they start whispering between each other and stuff like that. And he goes, the older one comes up to you and walks around the bar and looks at you and gets kind of close and looks up at you and he goes, I don't know that it had legs like you do, tall fella, but what it did have was dozens of vines that seemed to pick it up and carry it about almost like a specter, like a tumbleweed ghost, if it were.
And how many of those reach out to attack? How many worked his arm?
He looks down at his side a little bit. Enough to get the job done. Had it not
And
been
could
for
you
the
outrun it on foot?
The little brother says, or the little one again says, there wasn't much running needed when you throw all those shrooms at his feet, you dumb fuck. He goes, I told you to leave it alone. He goes, we did run, but Caleb's there. He tells it true. If it had not been for the mushrooms, we would have we would not have been able to outrun it, especially the little ones. They almost pop off like seeds in the springtime.
The
At least.
little ones?
That's right, lass. You see, as a flower to make seed, this monster somehow, well, best to be careful. Because the little ones grow up pretty quick. And if it's anything like the crabgrass or the other things I've seen in the glen, these will be growing pretty quick as well. With all those shrooms they've been eating, God knows what you're even going to walk into there.
How long has it been since you've been there?
What? 3, 4 days? The two of them talk in this kind of comedic kind of banter back and forth. 1, 2, 3 days. Well, the other day we had lunch. No, we didn't do lunch. The other day we was working. But it was 1, 3. But then there was Mom's Day. There was Mom's Day. Yeah, it would have been. It would have been fine. And they just keep going back and forth, like not getting an answer. It gets kind of tiring to listen to the two of them about figuring out how many days ago it was. How long are you willing to listen?
A little bit, then he would knock and he'd go, how about you count his toes and come up with the number?
Oh, he's clever, isn't he? He thinks we'd be counting toes. If I had 2 more drinks in here, I'd be stepping on yours. He goes, and the other one says, I have a bottle. And when you reach down to grab onto that toe, the fighting spirits would kick in, and you might get a bottle to your noggin. And you can tell they've had just enough to drink from the glassy look in their eyes and their manhood being threatened to just maybe be scrappy. But you don't know if it would amount to anything.
Gentlemen, I am sure that we trust your capacity in dealing with these creatures. We are just trying to get in some information. We thank you for your assistance in the matter. It's greatly appreciated.
Roll charisma check.
Okay.
We'll see how this goes.
I think her normal accent I can't really do right now.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Let's see.
Excuse me.
I think Arson will take a jab at Finn to answer his question about how long they've been. He was like, the contract says the attack's been going on for at least a good while.
Oh, see there? He's already told you. A good while. You happy now? Longshanks?
So I rolled a 17 and her charisma is +3, so...
Dirty 20. Oh, hell yeah, okay. You did roll, I rolled a 3. With stuff is still not very good. As you do that, the old man still is scowling at you, just proudly, Danny, more of like an act than actual scowl. The younger ones being like, oh no, Hamel, I like her. She seems to be speaking truth. She seems to be one that can maybe fill our drinks for telling the story we've been talking about. Yes, maybe. At that point, a waitress comes over that Arson was calling on and says, all right, boys, let's try to keep it calm over here. I've got some drinks. And she takes over the mugs up there and like, the drinks are here. And they're all happy. And they sit them up on the table and they stand back and they start to hum a song together. It almost sounds like the theme song of this place. And as the two sit back and they're, and she pours these long drinks. If you've ever been to a winery where they pour the long drink out of like that silvered pitcher, that's kind of what goes on here and stuff like that. And as she's doing it, she's kind of dancing around a little bit, and the two start to clap a little bit. And you look over, and there's a few more people that take in, just going, hey, look what's going on. And you can see her making these long pours. And when she's done, and she sits it down, the two of them toast each other and drink, and you can hear different people toasting in the background, and they slam them out. They're like, oh, that was a good one. That was a good pour. And that seems to be the theme around here. They do this quite a bit. As she dances off, Arson, you get the sinking feeling that you paid probably a little bit more, or you're going to owe a little bit more for that than you planned on. Okay? That wasn't you just getting around. That was something special. They've done this to people before, obviously. Okay? So, I'm curious. That would run you, when she comes by, $37 silver is what that would be as she goes by, and she whispers that into your ear as she walks by. And as she says in the distance, she goes, you'll settle up at the bar then. And she kind of walks away. You see a couple people, Arson, that are looking at you as if they've fallen for the same trick before, and they're kind of looking at you, kind of nodding. Like, poor bastard. You know, you paid for the long pour. Moving forward, is there any other information you guys would like to get out of these two, as A'zara is starting to make a counterbalance and seeming to even out the ship a little bit?
He would look to Colby and he would ask, or to Arson, and his expenses covered in our contract.
At that point, Rook walks up from behind, and he's rolling up a scrolled piece of paper. He's putting it back down and goes, I don't know. From what I could see and reading the document, everything seems fair and squared away enough. But obviously these people, and he nods down at them, Rook, of course, being very tall, looking down through his hooded line down at them, and you can see them kind of sink back a little bit. They're not as outright proud as they were before after the drink. They're kind of getting into the reality there's a large, dark man standing beside them. Not that the Draken wasn't enough, but now there's two of them, there's two of them, the odds aren't looking good, right? they're not as proud as they were. And he says, but everything seems to be legit. I would say the owner of this establishment would easily accommodate whatever we might need to get the job done. It's a matter of asking and knowing the right questions to ask. That's my best Rook voice, by the way. I hope you guys like it. I'm trying.
Very well done. Claps all around.
Thank you. Yeah, Jeremy will be proud.
So the owner of the establishment, then surely he'd be willing to maybe cover the drinks of his men as they explained it to us. Yeah, I mean, if that is the price of their information.
Rook looks over and leans into you a little bit, Finn, and says, I'm not saying I would doubt it. And he looks over at the two and looks at their drink and he goes, but I think this happy time here and all the theatrics are to cover up the fact that things aren't well in the supply chain. He goes,
it'd be crazy if an employee took advantage of the people he was sending out for a few drinks then, wouldn't it?
I think he mentioned that the drinks would come later. If we do this.
I see.
It didn't make it sound like it was far. A couple simple miles outside of the town, is that what he said? He looks down to two halflings and goes, oh, it's not too far out of town. You wouldn't even nearly have to take a wagon but some horses. But be mindful of the place. It is a sacred glen. And if he's given you permission to go there, well, you should, you'll have it, but just tread carefully. It's his most prized possession and ours as well. I've done many work even when I was a young boy. Back when the Bridgewaters first built the place. And this is the older one talking, of course. Hamill. Okay. He goes, and if you're able to fix this and whatever he's given you, rounds on me when you get back. And he looks up at you and he's kind of staring at Arson and Rook for a long time. And he looks over his brother, and his brother whispers something in his ear, like, I just got to ask him if he would do this thing. And he goes, oh, and he nods him off, and he goes, so you're a Voldros then? Like the show they were putting on when you come in, it's you, isn't it? Rook kind of looks down. You expect him to kind of look over and nod at you, Arson, or nod at you, Bella, or any of you guys. But he just kind of stares down at him. He says, what of it? And he goes, we just think it's funny and all that the fighting spirits, the sign outside the door is a giant stepping on one of us. It's just funny how things turn out as all that someone of giant born coming back to help us with the glen. It just makes for a funny story. And when he says giant born, you hear a deep breath being taken in by Rook. Something about that doesn't suit well with him. Rook usually plays his cards pretty cool. He usually can, what few words he says are pretty cleverly thought, and he doesn't get overly excited or emotional about things. But when he says that, and you'll notice it too, Arson, there's a deep breath involved. There's some kind of bit of disdain about that. Is anyone saying anything in this moment, as there's an awkward silence of at least 5 or 6 seconds there? If not, Rook turns over to you, Finn, and says, we should make preparations. I'm going to...
He looks to the halflings and says, I think I've got to feed up my big friend some vegetables. So we'll be back for our reward.
He chuckles. Rook is like, vegetables.
The plant.
I know the plant. I'm more of a potatoes person myself. Goes to walk off. At this point, we'll go ahead and jump out of the scene. And I want to leave it to you all. Okay? So, you've got some information here. It's the middle of the day. If you guys have any kind of supplies or anything that you want from town before you head out, if you want to find a way to go there, I can either present this to you and tell the story, or you can search through and have fun with this however you want. It's either getting there sooner, or it's going through the process and getting there later, but getting to explore some more. I want to leave it to you guys. I can do it either way. It's perfectly fine. You know what I'm saying? So what do you guys want to do moving forward here?
Role play it out and see where it goes.
Okay. Everyone good at this? I am too.
Is there a botanist in town?
A what?
Botanist?
I don't know what that is.
Expert in plants.
I'll let you know.
What about a druid?
There are those.
Mm,
Harley,
Not on
no.
the levels of the city that you've been on. There is no botanist.
okay.
Okay. Um, but you have seen druids, and you guys know of Symphona, which is the one that is not doing very well currently, but she seems to be some kind of druidess like ranger being that is the pretty much the lead over top of the Darkwood Huntsman of Hammelspire over the Rangers Guild there. Darkwood Wardens of Hammelspire, however you want to call them. Now she might be able to point you in the right direction. And Colby, in that moment when she's asking this, you realize that this Nadia you keep having these flashbacks about, she was escorting. She was with Rainlord when everything happened to you. She was a druid. Okay, so that's also another connection with druid-like folk and the Rangers Guild. But as far as going further than that, none of you have any more information, as you don't have a regular map of this place. You know what I mean? And you've not you've not seen anything like that since you've been here.
We know that it is attracted to the mushrooms. We could get it, build a trap for it, and you could use your ability to make things heavier.
Oh, that's neat. And where do you guys want to be having this conversation? You want to have it there at a table before you leave?
Probably.
Okay, is that good for everybody?
I could start a large fire.
I imagine we don't want to set the grove on fire.
Yeah, and Rook is like nodding in agreement with this. Like he specifically said to be careful with the glen.
Just a small one. Like,
They once said I was going to be just a small one too, and we see how that turned out. He just kind of looks at you. you know,
We can check with the druids to see if they have something that can target plants that aren't fungus, maybe. Um, what they had mentioned of the little ones unnerved me. So
we could find some way to attack it with cold. We know it doesn't like cold. Why it is in the warm glen.
Rook nods and grunts in agreement with that. That seems like a wise move. Um, Arson, do you have anything to add to the conversation at this moment?
Uh, he would just be adding like information that they missed while he was at that table, and like we'll say like how be on the lookout for the blue mushrooms because they seem to be more rewarding and more valuable than the rest.
Are we actually pick mushrooms or just to kill this thing?
I'm down with both if it gets us paid either way.
I don't think it'd be a good time to have our heads down picking if something's out there stalking us. But having a bag full of blue mushrooms might be the trick to get it to come to us.
Okay.
What if we could get it to chase us outside of the glen?
At that moment when you say that, you hear a familiar voice come over your shoulders from the distance. It seems to have a Hispanic kind of nature to it. I'm not good at that kind of voice, so just bear with me. But you hear a jingle of what seems to be some kind of belt or chain or something of that nature, and you hear a female's voice kind of come sharply from the distance. It says, "Good luck with that. You're never going to get that thing to come out of the warmth that it's found there. Hello, boys." And she comes over and pulls a chair over and sits down. It's Roselia. Okay. Roselia is the one that you were drinking with at the fountain outside of the Fighting Spirits that was making that bet with everyone going up to the top and stuff like that. Okay? Now, remind me again, Arson, what you did with that bottle.
I gave it to the waitress to give to the ogre.
Mm-hmm. So, as she comes back over, she puts her boots up on the table and smiles and looks at you all and looks over at you, Arson, dead in the eye. She goes, "Aren't you clever?" She kind of smiles and she's looking. Is Arson grinning and kind of acting like he doesn't know what happened, or are you giving in and letting him know that you did do what she seems to have this comical look about her face from?
At first he'll be playing along like he has no idea what she's talking about, and then smirk after she starts saying after she might explain if she explains what has happened.
Okay. With that, she says, I've got a little bit of information and I might actually be able to help you fools. For a cut of what you've been offered from the Brookwaters. And you don't have to act coy with me. I know they're rich. I know they throw around their coin like they don't care. But people like us, we know better. She goes, just a few miles outside of the place. This time of year. How you want to get there? You want to ride horses out in the weather like this and take all your gear there? Do you want to hire a wagon and do it? Or do you want to get there my way? She goes, I take an interest in this place and the people of it. She goes, but I'm looking to try to start up a following, and you all seem like you're in a position where I could get you a ride on an airship. Drop you off. It's not big by any means, but it's exactly the right size for this kind of a job. Her name's the Roselia's Eye. It's my own personal ship, and I'm still trying to pay her off.
You named a ship after your eye?
Let's just say I had something to do with the ship. It was more of a play on words, as if I was watching everyone on my ship. It's not exactly named by me, but the heroic man that did help me name it. Well, it stuck. And she gets a little dreamy-eyed for just a minute. Like you don't know exactly what she's referencing, but obviously her and this other person, she was very nondescript about. He means something. They mean something to her, to some degree. And it's named after her watchful eye, practically, is what they're getting at here. So, 300.
300.
Sing it for the trip. And if I have to save your ass to get you out of there, it's 450. You'll not find a better deal. This is a entry fee, as I'm trying to get a name for myself. And if this works out well, I expect someone to call me back again to do this. Because I know some of you, at least one of you, thinks they're pretty clever. And she looks at you, Arson, again. She goes, well, let me tell you right now. This will be the most clever thing you could do. What are you guys saying? Jeremy, Roselia, the Latino woman that was kind of dressed like a swashbuckler, that was at the fountain drinking with you guys, the one that Arson tricked and gave back that bottle full of the nasty pour-offs and shit. She has walked up to the table and presented that she has a very small airship called Roselia's Eye that she would be more than happy to use as carriage for us to get from the city to this glen that kind of defies the seasons, practically, for 300 singet or 450 singet if she has to fly in and save our asses to get us out of there. I was doing your character, I was doing your voice a little bit, bud, and you have walked up and you were going through the contract and looking at the stuff that NL Brookwater had given you, and they found out some interesting facts from two halflings that seemed to work in the glen before they got ran off. An older one, a younger one. One was named Hamel, and Hamel had been attacked by this creature, and he was almost like an Irish version of the guy from Jaws, the old sailor guy. He had that kind of vibe, like, oh, it's dull as eyes rolled in back on its head. It is, and he had that kind of thing, and they've came to the conclusion that this thing is big, could eat at least 3 halflings in a bite. Then it spawns little ones, and it eats mushrooms before it eats people, and they grow rapidly. To them, they grow rapidly. That's where we're at. So right now, Roselia's just come over to the table, got her feet kicked up.
350 sounds fair to me, but paid when we return out of the contract itself.
She looks at you and she says, I think the big one over here may understand the way that airship charters work a little bit more. It's half up front, just to get the thing out the door. And then we give the other half, if you guys are alive, to pay it. Do we have a deal? I'm going cheap. She goes, so if you're thinking about being clever or smart right now, you can just save that shit. Because this is not me trying to get rich. This is trying for me to get famous. Rich comes afterwards.
I just want to make sure we have a ride back. Forgive me if a few glasses of wine and prank or two between two people. But half up front.
She looks at
half of it seems fair.
It seems fair because it is fair. She looks at you all. She goes, I'll be up in Skywatch.
We may need to make 2 trips, though. I would suggest that we go in, and if we think we can take it when we're there, we do. We haven't actually laid eyes on it, and everything we've gotten so far, the information was of people that were scared and running from it.
She looks around, kind of like, for a minute, she's giving around a look to people, but she also has an expression like it's not her problem. And she looks back at you again, and she says, well, I suppose I can give a smaller discount on the second trip, but it does make it substantially more. A trip's a trip.
Absolutely. I was just running that by them. But I think that we should scout it before. I mean, what are we going to go tell a druid? That we've got a giant plant, by a halfling's words, that eats fungus. I mean, Rook, you thought you were a giant.
Yeah, the halflings were talking and called you giantkin. Slowly, and it bothered you a little bit. You actually took a deep breath and didn't say anything back to them when they said this. You were having a conversation, and it looked up at you, and it called you non-quaintly that. You know, it wasn't trying to offend you, but there was something about that bothered you. And you kind of, everyone could kind of hear you take a deep exhale in, or inhale in, and hold your breath for a little bit when they said that. And it made them kind of nervous, and the conversation came to an abrupt end at that moment. So, with that, she takes her boots down off of the table, and she looks at you all. She takes a long bow. She bows forward and looks at you all, and flips her hair back out of her face, and she goes, in Skywatch, Go to the piers. That's where I'll be. The ship is probably about 35 by 15 or so. It's not huge, but it's everything you'll need. She looks over at you, and she puts her finger on your shoulder, Rook. As she walks by you, traces her finger along her shoulder. She goes, pretty sure this one knows the way. And as she turns around, she gives you a smack on the shoulder. Kind of like a tomboy smack. As she walks off and stuff and goes out the door. Okay?
Arson would actually try to get the last word in. It'll say, I hope you and your friend enjoyed the drink.
She says over her shoulder, and she holds up her hand like this, and she waves it flirtatiously. And when she walks away, she's a butt shaker. She's one of those people that has that kind of walk to her. And as she does, she flips you off. Carelessly, like this, of her arm, back behind her as she walks and makes her way out the door. So, with that, you've thought about talking to a druid. You're going to find one. You know there's no one here that sells Miracle Grow exactly, or the opposite of. You discussed that cold bothers it. She's saying good luck getting it to come out of that place because they're drawn there from it. You have a ride that's going to cost you at least 200 singet up front just to get there. He has offered to pay 15,000 singet to get this done. Once you make the preparations, Rook and Arson, you guys could probably go up to him in this place or have a message delivered that you need some of that advance to you for expenses. And I'll leave it to you all now. Do you want to go looking for a druid? Do you want to talk to him about expenditures? Or do you want me to have you to narrate and arrive? Move forward. Let me know what we're doing.
I have 50 singet.
I have 73.
I have no idea how much I have. But with the disguise self, that affects my height too.
Yes.
So if I was getting what was being put down with the double trip thing, if we scout it out first to get an idea of what we need, if we want A'zara to enter the Glen as one of the dudes that we just met who previously encountered one of those creatures.
Oh.
That way it's not like new people type thing. Then she can do that.
If you would think so, that's perfectly fine. It's up to you when we get there. That's cool. Are you telling the group that this is your idea?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So have a conversation, guys, and tell me where you're headed collectively as a group. Have a chat, and then we will go there and do that.
I don't think we can afford much other than the trip. If he's already in dire straits, he's probably not going to be dishing out singets until we come back with results. So it's either we do it with what we have, or we find out what's there and get a solid plan, because I don't think that we're going to walk into a druid and describe it as the giant plant that eats mushrooms and throws off little plants that grow very fast. Be like, got just the thing for you.
It's the Glen version of Gremlins.
You'd be very surprised. When it comes to plant life, druids are very knowledgeable. A description like that can't possibly fit more than a couple of things.
Well, we could go to a druid. We are going to maybe check out a big thing, a big plant that throws off little plants in the glen.
Mm-hmm.
If they have any information, that would be pretty cool. And then it sounds like we don't have much other choice than to be on our way, whether they have answers or not.
One would think the druids would be who they would have turned to first to try to get rid of this thing. They may already be aware of what we're looking at.
Problem with druids, though, is just looks like nature to them.
It's true, but savage nature and peaceful nature are two different things. Even druids understand the need to cull.
I've seen druids carry poisonous vipers like rabbits.
I would offer to ask her, but I have a feeling that this is out of our realm.
They're different. Most of my people respect nature, but druids almost worship it. In my experience, they're an odd lot.
That's fair.
Nature is their church.
That is also fair. So,
Ask them how we burned down some of their church. Oh, let's give it a shot.
okay, so what they've kind of decided on, the Symphora, the satire druid creature that seems to be the head over the Darkwood Huntsman of Hammelspire, Jeremy, or the Darkwood Wardens of Hammelspire, is the closest thing that these folks have seen to an actual druid that they've interacted with since they've been here. Now, you and Arson had the most interaction with her, really, and that was during that encounter where you guys kind of stepped into the Netherfall, and she was there helping you combat the Red Queen. Okay? So you also know her condition. She's also strong enough to keep going, but you know she has disease. She is failing. She is weak. The tall man that was shepherding her and watching her kind of explained that. Oridan. Do you remember this, guys? Okay. So, you could go there and seek to have a council with her there. But you guys don't know of any other place that deals in specifically plants or if there is a druids guild of any particular kind here currently. At least on the levels of the city you've been on. So, give me a plan of action and we will paint the picture and go forward. Are you wanting to go there? You want to look otherwise? Or go to another local place and seek out some more information? It's up to you all. Roselia will be up there prepping the ship in Skywatch, and that'll be that. So, yeah.
Symphora might be a little bit more likely to give information to me and Arson. She has already seen our abilities. She may not believe we're being sent on a fool's errand if she knows what we're dealing with. Perhaps she'll be more forthright with information.
Standing.
We're actually one of that.
Would you like us to accompany you, or should we wait at the ship?
Would probably be best for everyone to come along. If nothing else, to meet her. I'm sure she'll have a thing or two to say to everyone.
Okay.
To the druid, then.
To the druid, then. Giddy up. Okay. So we're looking about 1 o'clock now. Okay. You guys work your way through town, leaving the Fighting Spirits Meadery and Winery, and you are going back to the guild in which you slept and have a place to call home for a bit because you're doing work there. You have your actual own quarters in that place now. Okay? So, at this point in the day, when you're going through, this place is a lot more busy than it was late last night when you were in there. Okay? There are groups of adventurers that are going in and out of this place. The door is open and is chained up open because of how many people are going in and out of this place. There are contracts, there are wagons outside in the street and horses that are well armored with all kinds of arrows and gear and components strapped to their sides, and people just getting ready for quests. This looks like one of those truck stop gas stations if that existed in Ulran. This is like the Flying J of Ulran right now. It's got all kinds of people going in and out and eating beef jerky and cracking their back and getting ready to go out. Contracts are being let in. Contracts are being let out. Busy, bustling place today. When you guys go in to have court or have a meeting with her, when you walk into this place, see how busy it is. You see Winona has actually got a cart outside with two really stocky ponies on the front, and she has a whole bunch of different skins and furs and real big horns. Looks like comes off of like a mammoth or something like that has stuff carved into it. And she is out there dealing and wheeling and dealing with people outside, and yeah, doing all that kind of thing. Go ahead.
I'd actually ask Winona if describe the creature to her, and I'm like, would that be worth anything to you, or its pieces?
As you're going up there and she's counting out some coin and she's looking at you, she's blank expressed at first, then she starts grinning. She goes, I see what you did there. Don't think for a minute that I didn't see exactly what you did right there. You know how to get to me, don't you? She kind of smiles. And she goes, I could say... The thing is toughest enough about plant-like creatures is the fact that everything shrivels up and dies. The only thing really worth saving and having are the hard parts. You know, the bark, the teeth are even made up of different kind of immaterial. Are you talking about something that's just straight up got roots and living and pumps out green blood? Or are we talking about something that's got some fangs and maybe something a little bit more to it? I mean, what exactly are you trying to...
Walks and feeds on mushrooms.
Maybe more than just mushrooms.
I woke up beside a couple of people like that the next morning before. That's nothing new. People like their mushrooms.
How about a poison if it has one?
A poison. Now that's something I can help you with. We actually just had some creatures brought in over there to, and I'm sorry, what's the name of the place she works at? What is it?
Heart of the Beast.
The Heart of the
Heart
Beast.
of the
Yes.
Beast.
Yes. The Heart of the Beast Salvage and Supply. And she goes, and we got some poison glands off of a manticore's tail. Because they've got these nasty stingers and stuff that come down, and we actually have got a couple bladders of that stuff. I mean, that stuff would shrivel up a stone into dust if it was put in the right hands. It eats mushrooms, huh? Joking around.
It can be hostile. I wouldn't be surprised if it's got some kind of a poison or a venom to it.
Definitely some sort of acid.
It likes the mushrooms enough that it let a couple halflings run from it when they dropped it.
She's like, she doesn't quite know. I could put a strong poison inside of a mushroom and trick it into eating the thing. But I don't know about the sniffer on it. I don't know if it's going to see something like that and just be like, and throw it away, and that's a waste of my poison and your time. Let's talk to a druid. But if you need something like that, and if what you're saying is, I think what you're saying is, if there's something worth keeping from it, maybe let Winona have a little bit of a pick from that?
Anything we could carry out. Winona would get the first pick.
Oh, you had me at anything, she says, and raises her eyebrows. When you said anything you could carry out, she gets the biggest shit-eating grin on her face. And she goes up to you, and she comes up and she fakes like she's going to punch you in the stomach. And she goes, you really know how to play with a girl, don't you? Like that. And she gives you a jab like that, and she points up at you. Huh? Anything. You heard him say it, didn't you? Did you hear him say it? And she's looking over at you, Rook, and you, Arson, and you, A'zara. And she's saying, we can do business. I'll go by and see what I have and see if I've heard a couple things. We've got a few people that are over there at the Heart of the Beast I may be able to speak with. Valdera has killed all manner of creatures and creations. I may have to ask her what she's buried her blade in lately and if it grew pretty flowers on its head. And she makes a smile and she goes, well, you don't just stand there. Help me load this up if I'm going to help you all. And she's loading up some more stuff, and she's looking at Rook and Arson as she's loading up a few more barrels of stuff and some other kind of moss materials, maybe a scale mesh thing made out of scales from some kind of drake or something like that. And she
We're
needs
loading it up. I tell her that we're going to go in and talk with Symphona. Did you say her name was?
Symphora.
Symphora.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good.
It's not often I remember NPC names. I just happen to really like that one.
Right on. Yeah, it was nice.
So he says basically, you know, maybe we can meet back here and say hour and a half.
She goes, yeah,
Or should we meet you and give you the information we find?
And I'll see if I can't get some information from Valdera and see if she's fought something like this and what we could actually keep of it of our own.
It walks on vine-like structures.
It walks on vines. It really.
Best description we've got.
Vines. Who fuck knows? Maybe I'll figure out something to make with it. I'll have to go back and look at my plans because right now everything's just a blank. I mean, I've never had to have me and the other guys back there cut into a tomato trying to save seeds. It's usually a little bit different than that with ribs and organs and teeth, and you understand what I'm saying.
It does pop off little ones of itself. Speaking of seeds.
So there is an element of a monstrosity to it other than just an overgrown cabbage. Maybe I could have something that no one's ever had before. This is anything. Anything. I'll see you after a while. Do you guys help her load for just a 5 minutes or something to get her shit on the way? Okay.
During this time, DM,
yeah.
What could I roll? Because eventually, Brooke's going to try to start pitching some ideas on what he thinks might work.
Yeah.
But what would I roll to try to come up with said ideas? I'm trying to get a gauge on how much I could really say. But Jeremy's got ideas.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to translate that into would Rook have those ideas?
Well, okay. So that brings up an interesting thing. Now, a lot of times when we're doing the Tales of Ulran version of things, we like giving roles to stuff like this. And I couldn't quite narrow it down because there needs to be a plan of action, a POA, right? And it needs to be based on, I've used this formula before and we can use it today. Okay, so what we'll do is if you're able to get a 20 on your plan of action, or 25, it's everything Jeremy can come up with. A 20 is everything within reason that you've been around. And then it just trickles on down from there. Now, the plan of action, you have to kind of tell me what notion you're using. Are you using elements of your history, what you found? Are you looking around the city for things that you could use at your disposal, which are new discoveries to you? If you're thinking about swaying people into doing jobs for you, and this is more of a charismatic kind of pulling, it's your creativity to do that. And when you do, I'm going to say, okay, you're using this element. Let's do a plan of action. Or
it's definitely going to be a mix of a personal experience on top of common sense.
Okay.
Because like Jeremy knows that if it's a creature made of wood and that wood's wet, obviously you ain't going to be able to burn it.
A witch. You had the Monty Python moment. I couldn't help it.
It's floats. This floats nuts.
But also know, like, okay, it walks on vines. Jeremy knows, oh, if we could chop the vines, we immobilize the thing.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
would
we
Rook
could
come
chop
up with that
anything.
idea?
Yeah, we could chop anything.
Well,
Oh yeah.
usually the balance goes the other direction. It's usually like as long as you're not metagaming with knowledge that you knew your character wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But a lot of times your character knows more crap than you do.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just let's do this. You could do it singularly, or we could have a meeting and say like, okay, let's everybody play to their strengths. You have one aspect of it. You want to use your background knowledge of things, Jeremy. Then you want Arson to use whatever he would have available. You may want A'zara to go around and try to pick up some local lore and stuff like that. And you all could do your individual plan of action rolls, and we'll do a tally almost like we would when you guys are doing stealth. I'll give you your individual what you all find within the next hour or two, and we'll just theatrically do it that way if you would like. That's kind of interesting.
Kind of a depending on what we all roll as a collective would be kind of collective information that we come up with as far as ideas on what to do.
Right, but make it fun for me and give me the opener 1 or 2 sentences. Like, let's say it's Bella, okay? And Bella says, okay, I'm going to go into some local places, and I'm going to ask them to tell me some stories about some things that makes these places popular, because I'm going to start building up a dance and a play that I want to give to you all once we get it down. And I'm looking for special stories to be able to make a performance around. And as she's doing this, she might be able to use charisma and get word of mouth and get some information from people as they're telling stories. Okay? Danny might go in, since he's a wizard, he might talk to different people and spell crafters. He might go to a place where there's components for sale in town. And he might be speaking to wizards about what's the kind of things you've faced along these ends. What spells have you found that function and work well? And I can give you answers based on how well his plan of action roll goes for that. So everybody kind of has their own particular part of this. You can just do it that way. Make it fun for me and I'll make it fun for you. You know what I'm saying? So who would like to go first? Or do we want to just keep this a singular thing? Everybody rolls a dice and we have someone be the head of this. Like if Jeremy's character wants to be the driving force in this, I'll let you all play your different parts, roll your rolls, and I'll explain how this comes to be from Jeremy's plan of action.
I'd say, since obviously, I don't know, we're not going to role play the actual time it takes. We're just going to kind of say what we're doing and go from there.
That'd be fine. You can do it either way.
I figure that's something, if nothing else, if nobody else has got any objection to it, something that we can do prior to meeting up with Symphora. That way we can pitch these ideas to the druid, who's going to know, yeah, that's going to work, or no, that's stupid. Don't do that.
Right? Yeah, I get it.
That makes it double in size.
Yeah.
Let's say we should meet with the druid and receive what she can tell us about it, and then maybe we'll have more information to act on.
True. It'll narrow down what we're seeking rather than
going broad
ideas.
Yeah.
Or she may have the answer outright and we don't have to worry about it.
True. What about? Yeah. What do you think, Bella? What do you think, Colby?
What if we put a mushroom on a fishing pole?
Yes. Yes.
What if I disguise myself into a giant mushroom? No, I'm kidding. But
those are the ideas.
Yeah.
I think we should see the druid.
Okay.
Because, I mean, otherwise we just run around aimlessly for a little bit.
Yeah, it's easier to plan on facts than just loose descriptions.
Smart.
Fair enough.
So, I think with that, you guys are heading in. You're trying to figure out a way to have an audience with Symphora, correct? Okay. So, I'll give a scene in here, and you all decide how you want to do that, because you can't just walk in and say, hey, there you are, I want to talk to you. It's not that simple with her. There's an order to things. So, I'm going to roll a dice here, and that's going to let you know, if I roll a 20, Rainlar's like, hi, everybody, how are you? And if it's a 1, it's like, no one looks like they like you. things suck, you're going to have a hard time finding her today. Okay? Let's let the dice decide. Okay. So, okay, I can do that here. I think I can do that here without overcomplicating it. Okay. So, you go inside. Still busy as it was before, but many of the central tables don't have people at them. People aren't in here hanging out and having drinks and shit. People are getting back and forth. There's people putting up things on the board as quick as they're being taken down on the board. Okay. And you would see Tharu, which is the Bulgarian with the tusk. He's a tusk tooth one. Over there, dressed in his furs and his armor. Looks like an ancient mystic warrior that probably about 30, 35 mortal years. Real tough son of a gun looking guy. He's over there on the side and he's talking with Rainlore about something. Rainlore's leaning on his lance. And they're discussing something theatrically. Okay, and when they get done talking and you guys approach and you see Rainlore, Tharu is tapping his chest and he's pointing at Rainlore's chest. And in that moment, they see you guys walk up to them. Raynor looks over and he kind of smirks and goes, "Well, you got up earlier than I thought you would. I would have made breakfast, or at least I would have enjoyed it being made for me, but y'all were gone. So, how's it going?"
Found work.
What's that?
Found a job.
Nice. Got a job going on. Good deal. And that happening today or tomorrow, or need a guide? I know a guy. And he points at himself and he kind of says, "What are we thinking?"
Well, we've already found transportation. What we need is information, though.
I'll probably help out with that, especially if it's, since you are kind of like guild members. Before we go into that any further, man, so is this something guild related, or is this something outside? Looking at all of you.
Arson will be, well, it was certainly guild made, but not offered from the guild itself.
He looks at you, and he looks at Tharu, and Tharu just kind of looks over at you all and takes a deep breath and looks. And Raynor says, "So, what we're saying is, you've got a gig, you've got a job to do. Something killed, something slain, something. But what you're saying is because you guys are doing it, we're making it a guild thing. Because that has benefits."
It surely had the seal, the guild sealed on it, but it was given to us from the owner of the meadery and brinery.
Oh, fuck, what is it right there? And Tharu looks at me and says, "That would be the Brookwaters. The halflings that own it. I've heard about this from a degree. It seems the wine is starting to flow slower from there." He looks over and Rook's kind of nodding in agreement and stuff like that. And he goes, "So, we're helping save booze. Is that it? Is that what I'm getting?"
Have you ever tried it?
Seems like a noble thing to do.
He looks at the grin on both of you being sarcastic about this, like the noble thing to do. And he's like, "Ha!" He laughs out loud.
Rook's going to smile.
Actually, he
slightly.
says, "Can you imagine returning from the road on an adventure to find that there was no wine in the city?"
He looks over Tharu, and Tharu just kind of rolls his eyes.
Rook's
He's like, "Surely never a thing would happen on a ranger's watch." Right?
Rook crosses his arms with a slight smile, and he takes one finger and he points over at Arson. It's like, it was so good it brought a tear to that one's eyes.
He looks at you and he gets kind of close, Arson. He's looking at you and goes, "No shit." Oh,
No
hell.
shit.
That's what I'm talking about, my man.
Surely quality goods like that are worth saving.
I mean, I can't help but get on board with that. Transportation, what are we talking about here exactly?
An airship, the Roselia's Eye.
He looks at Theroux, and Theroux just kind of puts his hand up, is like, and turns and goes back over to the table and starts collecting up his card deck and stuff. He's obviously had those cards out playing that game again. He looks at you and he goes, so you guys are the ones that she's going to use to start her new business. He does air quotes and he looks at you guys and he goes, could be worse. Could be better. But
Airship
I
work
think
is
that's what
feast
we're
or
about,
famine.
isn't it? What's that?
Airship work is feast or famine. I should know.
Hell yeah, you should. When you see this thing, maybe you'll know something I don't know. I know a lot about being a ranger and doing those kind of things, you know, killing dead shit and whatnot, stuff that don't want to die. When it comes to flying around in ships that don't have water underneath of them, well, I'll leave that to you. And he gives you a point, Rook. And he
We're
says,
all
but
masters of our own domain.
right. And he looks down at his legs with question. He goes, whatever that domain may be. He says, so how can I help get this ball rolling?
Well, we have a small description of the creature, and we was hoping that Symphora maybe shed some light on it. It's a plant.
Oh, the druid thing, right? He does this thing with the horns and shit because she has like that, and he goes, yeah, I get it. Uh, and he looks at you guys and he's calculating, he's thinking for a minute. Oh, we'll have to see if today's a good day for that. He kind
What
of
is the
looks
guild?
around for a minute.
And what's the guild percentage of our take if this is a guild job?
He smiles. And he kind of nods. And he goes, well, the good news is on this one wasn't on our board, so really they don't have to know since you're being groomed. He goes, so what it means is if we can get Roselia to keep something in the air long enough, that's good. Because then we can utilize that more, get her more business. We can make something, she can make something. I don't do the contracts. What I do know is that you have guild assurances. You know, like we're going to go try to find Nadia, right? That kind of stuff. Don't go into the darkness, life in vain, all that kind of other stuff. We keep to our own, and now that we've had our dealings, and you guys have given something back to the city. He's referring to the book and all that shit. We have our commitments to you as well. So we can utilize that for now. We can talk about the finances and stuff later. Why you guys aren't needing expenditures already, are you? I mean, hell, we're not even out the door yet. Who, the Brookwaters, right? Man, they're fucking loaded. Because you working that angle?
Oh, we are.
Okay.
Rook negotiated the initial contract. In addition, we're going to make a side deal with Winona. She's already got choice of what we bring back.
What? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's stop on that. Did you just say her choice on what you bring back?
Yeah, from the creature. Is that
You need to be careful with that shit. I still owe Winona shit. So, moving forward, personal note and stuff like that. Little dwarven women are mean, and they're always listen. If there's something worth keeping, get it off that thing before Winona has a chance to look at it. All I'm saying. Not that you know, because She is damn good at what she does. But we get to just, you know.
If you're poor on coin and you may need a poison to kill a plant, it's just finding out what type of plant it is so we can give her the information.
I'm with you. The druid thing. I get it. I get what you're saying now. Okay. Let me do something on my side. Hang out. Make yourselves comfortable or meet me back here shortly. I'll go see if she wants to, if she's able today to have a talk about that kind of shit and whatnot. Maybe I can get a book off of her or something like that. You said give me some more details about this plant thing. What are we talking about here?
Multiple limbs, vine-like. From the perspective of a halfling, it's a giant.
He kind of chuckles and then automatically corrects himself as he looks around, because when he does that, I'm going to say like another dwarf goes walking by and he's like, it's all good. He just kind of catches himself. But go ahead.
It loves to dine on mushrooms, so much the fact that when the halflings drop the mushrooms, it quit chasing them. And it also spawns little ones of itself.
All right. I don't know that one. Okay. Hang out for a little bit, and I'll be back to see if I can't come up with something for you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Nice.
Well, while you go speak with Sephora, is there anything we might be able to get to help raise her spirits a little?
He looks back and forth, and he looks at you with a long, knowing look. And he kind of nods. And he steps in kind of close to you, Rook, and he says it where everyone can hear it, but it's more meant for you. And he gets kind of serious for a minute, and he goes, that's the plan. I've just got to make sure you guys are ready first. This would be a good step in the right direction. And we have, there is something we could do, but I just got to make sure that you guys can you handle it before we. I can't lose another person.
It's fair.
We can't handle it. The guild can't handle it. My conscience can't take it anymore. So let's kill the plant thing. See what we're made of. See how it works. But that's the idea. We've got something in the works that could possibly help her out quite a bit if it pans out. So, yeah, keep that in the pot, keep that on the fire, okay? All right, see you here in just a little bit. He turns and he walks off. So, obviously, and I'll tell you as Brian, I have an awesome thing planned for that I have like 2.5 pages written up for already, which is ironic you bring that up. So there is something that you can go help to keep her at bay and mend her on down the road. First, we got to see if everyone's able to do it and good enough to be able to survive something simple like this before we go trying to do that shit. Okay? So, if you're keeping notes, now's the time to write down some notes so we know what the hell's going on next time we play. Not that we're stopping right this second, but so Raynlor's going to talk to Symphora to see how well she's feeling. He has a description of some of the characteristics you're talking about, right? Roselia has Roselia's Eye, the small airship. She's up at Skywatch, docked up there, waiting for you guys. We know overall the trip's going to be 450 singet. Okay. That's 300 there and 150 back if she has to save your ass. Okay. What else do you guys have on the fires right now? What else do we need to remember?
Wynona's checking with Valdera to see if she's fought anything of that nature.
So just write, and please write down a quick note of that and stuff. So when we take up next time, we've all got that kind of taken care of. I'll make that kind of your baby, Danny. You can speak with her about that shit. Okay. Okay. And having said that, I'll go ahead. You guys, it's 7 after 10. Do you guys want to go ahead and call it for this one, and we'll just try to get it here either next weekend or the next one? Or do you guys want to go on just for a little bit?
I'm probably gonna have to call it
Okay.
myself.
And I know your eyes are bugging you, but I can see it. That's been happening. How the hell did you do that anyway, Jeremy?
Not sure. I got up this morning and eyes were a little fucky, not bad.
Yeah.
And then went to a family reunion, went out to the park, and I don't know if it's the heat, allergies, what, but that's something had my right eye all kinds of messed up.
I worked in I won't be, because I'll get ready to wind the video up, but I got real bad sweat in my eyes on Friday. It was like 105 out. Dude, I look like someone like hit me with mace.
I'd say that's probably a lot to do with what was going on.
Yeah, I still don't.
Saturday.
Yeah, I still don't feel right from it. It sucked. All right. Well, Bella, is there anything you were going to be messing with in particular you want to say is your homework assignment until we get back into this?
Nothing in particular is coming to mind.
Okay. All right. So, very good night, very fun. Had a lot of different characters and shit like that. We'll go ahead and get ready to stop this. As always, and once again, I'm Brian Kynes. Want to thank everyone that watches these for hanging in there. It's getting off the ground. This is going to be fun. We're meeting all kinds of cool NPCs. We're creating shit, making new accents, and all kinds of fun stuff. So, having said that, we'll have a quick bullshit session. I'll go ahead and shut this down, and we'll see you guys the next Sunday that we decide to do this.
Woohoo!
Later on.
Bye.